Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to learn Unit 2, that is New Kings and Kingdoms. In this chapter we will see how new rulers and dynasties came to power after the 7th century and how they ruled, fought wars and built temples and made India's political map so diverse. After the 7th century, many regional kingdoms started appearing all over India. There are big landlords and warriors called Samantas. They were under bigger kings and had to bring gifts and attend the royal court and help the king in wars. But over a time, many of these Samantas became powerful and independent. They began calling themselves Mahasamanta, meaning great lord of a region. For example, Rashtrakutas in Deccan were once subordinates of the Chalukyas of Karnataka. But in the 8th century, their ruler, Dantidurga, defeated the Chalukya king and performed a grand ritual called Hiranyagarbha or the Golden Worm. This ritual, performed with the help of Brahmanas, symbolically made him a Kshatriya, a ruler by divine rebirth. There are also Brahmanas who became kings by taking up arms, like Mayura Sharman, who is founder of Kadamba dynasty in Karnataka, and Harichandra, the founder of Gurjar Pratihara dynasty in Rajasthan. So new rulers came not just from royal families, but also from powerful, ambitious people who rose by courage and strategy. Next, administrations in kingdom. These new kings loved taking grand titles like Maharaja the Raja and Tribhuwana Chakravarti and so on. But even with such big titles, they had to share powers with Samantas, peasants, traders and Brahmanas. The main income for these kingdoms came from taxes. Peasants, cattle keepers and artisans had to give a part of what they produced, and also traders paid revenues. The Chola inscriptions mention more than 400 types of taxes. The most common were the Vetti, the tax taken as forced labor, and Kadamai means land revenue. They even had small taxes like for thatching your house and using a ladder to climb a palm tree or inheriting family property like that. All this money was used to maintain the king's court, build temples and forts, and fight wars, which brought even more wealth to plunder. Now, how do we know about these kings? Through Prasastis. Long inscriptions were written in praise of rurals. These were composed by learned Brahmanas who described kings as brave, generous, and divine. They often exaggerated to show their king as the greatest. The kings rewarded these Brahmanas with the land grants recorded on copper plates as a mark of respect. And one very famous historian from 12th century, that is Kalhana of Kashmir, he wrote a book called Rajata Rangini in Sanskrit, a history of Kashmiri kings. He used many sources like inscriptions, documents and eyewitness accounts, and unlike the unusual Prashasti writers, Kalhana was critical and honest about rulers and their actions. That's why he is known as one of the first true historians of India. Next, each dynasty wanted to expand its control, and the most prized region was Kannauj in the Ganga Valley. It is rich and strategically important. The three powerful dynasties, that is the Gurjar Pratiharas and Rashtrakutas and Palas, they kept fighting for it. This long conflict is known as tripartite struggle. But why was Kannauj so important? Because whoever controlled Kannauj, they controlled the trade routes and wealth of North India. At the same time, rulers used wars to display power and collect wealth, often by attacking temples. Temples weren't just religious sites, they were center of wealth, culture and influence. One of the most famous foreign invaders was Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni. He ruled from 1997 to 1030 CE and attacked India many times, including the famous Somnath temple in Gujarat. The huge treasures he took back helped build his capital city Ghazni into a splendid one. But Muhammad was not just a conqueror. He was also curious about India's knowledge and culture. He appointed a scholar named Al-Biruni to write about India. The Al-Biruni's book, Kitab-ul-Hind, written in Arabic, is still one of the most important sources about India's society, geography and tradition of that time. In North India, other regional powers like the Chahmanas or Chauhans also rose. Their famous ruler, Prithviraj Chauhan, defeated the Afghan ruler Muhammad Ghori in 1191 but lost him the next year in 1192, marking the beginning of a new chapter in Indian history. Now let's focus on one of the most powerful and successful kingdoms, the Cholas of South India. The Chola story began in the Kaveri Delta in Tamil Nadu. At first, a small family called Muttarayyars ruled there under the Pallavas of Kanchipuram. But around the 9th century, a Chola chief named Vijayala defeated the Muttarayyars and captured the region. He made Tanjore his capital and built a temple for goddess Nishumbasudini. After him, his successors expanded further. The Chola kingdom grew under Rajaraja I in 1985 CE and his son Rajendra I. Rajaraja conquered many South Indian regions and reorganized administration. while Rajendra even led a naval expedition to the Ganga Valley, Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia. This shows that the Cholas were not only land rulers but also had strong naval power connecting India with trade across seas. Now, the temples built by Rajaraja and Rajendra at Tanjore and Gangaikonda Cholapuram are world famous. They are not just places of worship, they were centers of economy, culture and social life. Around every temple, towns developed and full priests, musicians, dancers, artisans and cooks, garlands makers, and the land donated to temple provided income to support all these workers. The Cholas were also expert in making bronze statues, especially Lord Shiva as Nataraja, the cosmic dancer. These sculptures are some of the finest in the world even today. Next, agriculture and irrigation. The success of the Cholas came from strong agriculture and irrigation. The Kaveri River branched into many small canals, bringing fertile soil for rice cultivation. To make more land cultivable, they cleared forests, built embankment to control floods, and dug canals and tanks to store water. In many areas, 2 crops were grown each year. These irrigation works needed planning, labor, and cooperation. Both kings and villagers worked together, showing early example of public participation in development. The Chola Empire had one of the best administrative system in the Indian history. The group of villages formed a unit called Nadu, and each village or Ur had its own village council. These council managed taxes, justice and irrigation. The well-off peasants, who were rich landowners, played an important role in administration. Kings honored them with the titles like Muvendavelan, that is a peasant serving 3 kings, or Ariyar means chief. There are different types of land categories, that is Velanvagi means land of non-Brahmin peasants, and Brahmadeya means land given to Brahmanas, and Devadana means land gifted to temples, and Shalabhoga for schools, and Pallichandam means land donated to Jain institutions. Each Brahmana village had its own assembly called Sabha, which worked efficiently and recorded decisions on temple walls. In towns, nagarams or traders associations also helped in administrations. A famous example is from Uttaramerur, Tamil Nadu. Here the names of eligible members were written on palm leaf, placed in a pot and drawn out by a young boy. A kind of ancient democratic elections. Isn't that amazing? So these kingdoms were not just about kings. They were about how society, economy and governance evolved together. So that's it for today's class. In our next class, we will move to the north, to the story of Delhi and the Sultans, who changed India's political structure again. And if you like this explanation, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel.